welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm back in Essex again. I'm only about probably about 5 minutes drive from my studio, and I've been asked to paint a commission of this particular scene behind me. The main thing I understand from the client is that the church is quite important, but also he also wanted a bit of the White Horse, because I'm here in Great Baddow, just on the outskirts of Chelmsford. It's not as quiet as it was when I was in Herefordshire, but albeit we've got some lovely views here in Essex. So I'm just going to have my first cup of coffee on site, and then I'm going to lead you through the painting process. Now it's looking rather hazy, but when I first came here it was really full of sunshine, so that's the way I'm going to treat the sky, and hoping that it does speak of thunderstorms today. It is very humid, so I'm hoping that I can get that down without any major problems. So we do have a tree, but whether that would, to the right here, but whether that would protect us in watercolour, I'm not really sure. Okay, right, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to, with this number 4 mop that points, that's my favourite brush at this moment, and that's the brush I'm going to use. I'm using Prussian blue today. It's the same as the Windsor blue green shade, and what I want is a nice piece of colour, nice blue into the sky. So I'm just going to use that. I don't see a problem with that. So we're starting off with the deep blue this side. Now it will dry very quickly. That's why I've got the brush or an area of the palette well loaded with colour, and I'm going to run across the top of those chimneys, pull the colour up and across, then I'm pulling down one side, down the other, not too narrow to start, because you can always narrow, like I always say, always make it smaller, but it's not as easy to make it bigger with any of these areas that I'm using. There we go, and just try and keep that damp. And now I'm going down the side. This is the big chimney breast of the White Horse pub, which is right on this corner, and as you can probably hear, it's quite a busy corner, which is not a problem, but you know, from my trip to Herefordshire last week, where I was actually painting out in the countryside with no traffic, nothing going on, to today is totally different. But that's plein air painting. Flip that little fly away. Right, now I'm going to add a little more water to that, because I want it to be a little weaker where we come, where the tree is, but holding a reasonable amount of colour there. There we go, sweeping that across. I've not damped the paper because I know it's going to dry very quickly, but I want it to hold at the areas that I'm painting. I don't want it to be flowing around out of control. It does have its advantages, but it does have its disadvantages. So I'm picking around the weather vane up the top, trying to keep it to flow. A bit more water now, flowing the paint in and allowing it to run down. Now, as you can see, my original drawing was a little on the large side, so I've reduced that. Now I'm pulling all that down. Get a little bit of run, it doesn't really matter a great deal. So see how I've reduced the size of that tower. Now if there are any marks of pencil marks, then don't be concerned about that. because that will all disappear or can be removed at a later date. Remember these little castellations. Right, just make certain that's still going. Yeah, still. Notice how I'm keeping it damp. Always aware that it still needs to be kept damp. And as I come down, it's running out of paint, so that gives me the opportunity to go in with. It just creates a lighter colour, really. It's silver birch. I can lift that off later. There we go. And that finishes there. Right, now I've got to show light coming from the right. So what I'm using is a yellow, cadmium yellow, coming in, cleaning the brush thoroughly, very quickly. Then I'm going into the raw sienna and I'm just pulling that in to that area. And I'm hoping that that will blend nicely without turning too green. And if it does turn too green, well, hey ho, that's life. And then I'm going to introduce some alizarin crimson into that, because that will create a grey feel just where it introduces into that colour. And then I'm going into the lower area here. Just go around that church tower. There we are. That's lovely. Go with the flow. I always say with people, go with the flow. Take a bit that side as well. Just before it dries, if I can get that in, I'll be quite happy with that. Try and balance it up. And then a little more red now into this lower area to the left hand side of the church, because I want that to appear hazy and distant, and the same there. So a bit of red going in there. There's a large tree. A lot of the area of this will be trees overhanging, so I'm not too concerned, but just add water here, I think, just allow that to flow in, just going around some little details around the church area like that. Then what I'm going to do with just these little run backs, I'm going to create some clouds, because I feel that is that time, that sort of day really. What I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other, so that balances a little, like that. There we go. And then finally, that just gradually gets lost. Well, basically there's the sky in. We've got to leave that to dry. Good. Well, while that was drying, I had finished off my miniature flask. So there you go, it's pretty much dry. Now, first thing I'm going to get in now is, well, I'm not really sure, to tell you the truth. Oh, right, let's get in the lovely lovely brickwork. And for that brickwork, I just see light red. It's really no more than that, as far as I can see. And it is quite a depthy red. In other words, if depthy is a term, well, there you go. That's certainly a term now. I'm not going to do the pots. I'm going to do purely the chimney stack itself. And I'm just leaving just a bead of white, if I can, down that sunlit edge. Look at that. Now, it's nice and dark. I've added a touch more water because I want that paint to run. And these, as always, are old buildings, so we don't need to have any sort of fancy stuff going on. In other words, don't be too neat with the way this is painted. That roof area comes there. Don't be too neat. And now I'm going to add a little raw sienna to that. May need a bit more water, but let's see. Oh no, there you go. Let's just add a little more raw sienna to that because it didn't really affect it a lot. There we go. And that's the sign. Okay, and it's a little bit lighter there. Bead of white down the front where the sun is catching. And then of course it's down the back edge there. And then it's across there. Right, now a little bit more raw sienna to clip off that lovely bit of detailing there in that, how does that go? Oh right, okay, yeah, that goes around the corner, that's fine, and that finishes on there, that's good. You know, I mean, these things you make up as you go along. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but really that's the beauty of watercolour painting, is that you can get away with an awful lot if you're loose with your application. Of course, if you're too tight, then it all gets rather fussy and I'd say uninteresting. That's what I'd certainly say. Whoops, that doesn't go like that. And there's steps there, so that comes across like that. Now this is going to be almost all raw sienna, just to ring the changes as much as anything. Also gives light to that area, and that heads down like that and across like that, and that comes towards us. Well, this will be in shade. The good thing about this one, we've got a lot of dappled shade, which is that goes down like that, and then we'll say that goes down like that, because it doesn't, but it does. Yeah. Good, so that's that building in. Now I'm going to do the tile roofing. So to the Prussian blue I'm adding Indian red, and all of a sudden you get a lovely slate grey. Look at that. I think that's what you call slate grey, and that's not that, it's, oh well, it's only just a very small part of that then. Okay, yeah, just that small area there, but even so, it's just to show you how you get slate grey. Then we're going back with the red, but I'm putting a little bit of the Indian red in with the light red, because this is the tiles, and that's the sunny side, although it's not all that sunny at the moment, but that's how I'm depicting it. Then I'm adding burnt umber to that. Whoops, burnt umber to that, purely to make it darker, because this is in shade, or it will be when we come and do the final finishing touches, or the shadow work as it were. And it just finishes there like that. We go, and of course we have the tiling overhanging there. So that just marries those two together. Now into that burnt umber Indian red mix, I'm adding a bit more light red, a bit more burnt umber going in this one, because this will be in shadow, but I want to start off with a reasonable strength of colour, and that's for this brick wall on this side there. And it is a bit lighter in place. It's got a domed coping stone at the top, and then it comes down like that, and the brick has been changed at some point. Not that we're really concerned about that, but it does help to give a bit of interest, because most of that's going to be in shadow anyway. And to that I'm adding Windsor blue with raw sienna, and that's going to make me that sort of, so I took a bit of Windsor blue, put a bit of raw sienna in there, and this will create just a different bricking colour, which is exactly what I can see anyway. So, and that also does for that little buttress area there. That's looking good, don't see a problem with that. Now I've used Indian red with that Prussian blue to create the grey spire. So I'm running down, notice how I'm making this just a little bit larger, because that'll help when I come to create the shadow effect. Like that. And this is sectioned in as much as they have some buttress areas, but I'm not going to show those too much. So that finishes like that. Then I'm going to clean the brush and add just a very weak blue to that side. Very, very weak. There we are. So that's darker than, there'll be shadow on that obviously. It's darker than the sky on the left, but lighter than the sky on the right. And that is the key to creating these lovely church spires. Now the actual tower itself, so I've got to make the tower a little larger. You'll notice it wasn't large enough, and to do that, well, we may as well use the colour that we've got in the palette there. That was the wall colour with the burnt umber and the raw sienna in. Try not to mix too many colours, try and use colours that you've got. I'm adding a little more raw sienna to that, and this time I'm using cobalt blue because I want that to turn like a stone. It's a flint grey. That's what I'm looking for. Whether I'll achieve it, looks a little bit on the green side, but there you go. A bit more of that. Perhaps we need a bit more of the Indian in there. That's it. There we go. Look at that. Immediately it comes up correct. Now I'm going to make the tower slightly larger. And the buttress areas, I've not counted these because I don't think it's important at this particular stage. It really is a matter of creating, oh, there's a window there, that'll come in darker later. There we go, buttress areas there. Go over that again. There we go. That's in shadow anyway. Made it a bit wider. May even make it even wider still. And the sunlit side will be just purely more raw sienna in there and a fairly weak tone. There we are. That is more or less the colour that I can see on this sunny morning here in Great Baddow, although the sun has gone in as I've said, but there you go. That's good. And then there's a buttress area there. There's lots of planting around the lower part of this church. So what I'm going to do is to incorporate that in the finished painting. As you can see, I've come over further that way. I need to come a little bit further that way, but that will happen with my shadow colour. Right, we've got some red into that same mix, a little bit duller red than what we've had on the areas in the front. We've got a, let me just have a think. Oh right, yeah, because I've got trees overhanging here, so I need to see exactly what I've got. So that's that. I'm going to make it all like that. There's lots of interesting pieces to this church, lots of interesting architecture. If you've never visited Great Baddow, then it's, as you can probably hear, quite a busy little, well, it's just the outskirts really of Chelmsford City, but it does have its, sorry, I'm just thinking where I want, right, there you go. It does have a lovely feel to it. Just do the shadow side of that. There we are, then we can see that. But yeah, I mean, Baddow is quite a nice, it's attached to Chelmsford, you know. It's like all these town places. It is attached to the outskirts of Chelmsford. Oh right, so that comes out there, just like where my studio is really, and then that comes across there like that. Brilliant. Okay, so that's that. Then we have some more red, just a little bit of light red with a little bit of Indian red, just to pick up the red on, because it's quite, as I say, it's quite ornate. There's some little red touches there, but notice how I'm leaving plenty of white, because I want that to show. And lo and behold, we've got a little bit of sunshine. That's interesting. That's really good. Now for the smaller details, this time I'm using a Pro Art Series 103 number 5 rigger, just to put fine details in really. Now I'm going to start off with the foreground and work my way back. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use, so that doesn't run into that, that's it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use light red, so I'm going into that same part of the palette, a nice light red with burnt umber, and that's the mix that I'm going to use for the chimney. See how strong that is, because these chimneys do stand out in really strong dark colour, but down the right hand side I'm leaving, so I'm creating the width of them down the left, and there will be then shadow, and they do slope, you know, they have a bit of an angle to them, and just putting in a sense that there's a lip on the top. And I'll be quite honest, at this stage I'm not putting anything on the sunny side. So that's that. What else have we got on that building? Right, clean the brush. I've got some grey there, and that's going to be the grey for the lead flashing that runs across there like that and across into the sunlit area. See where you run across the sunlit, it's light, and when you go into that area it's dark, so it almost does it for you really. And then there's some red tile work there, so that's going in darker. It's all little details that, you know, that do make all the difference if you can, you know, if you can get them in. Now the door colour, that door there, is very sort of funny colour, so I'm adding a little bit of the Prussian blue with that, and I said a little bit, but look at it, and a little bit of Indian red. Is that the colour? Oh, it's got to be quite a bit of Indian red actually. Funny old colour, that door. It's the thing when things are painted, they do tend to be unusual colours. So anyway, it's a reddy grey, so that's what I'm going for there. And lo and behold, it's come up a little on the brown side really. So let's just add a bit more red to that. I'm just doing the door surround at the moment, like that. That finishes more or less there. Perfect. So there's a little door there. Yeah, that'll dry up fine. What else have we got? Let's put some detail now on the church. Right. I'm going to introduce cobalt to that mix. We're still going on the old greys because we've got the clock tower, and there we go. And I'm Indian red again. There we go. Yep, that's it. That's the grey I'm looking for, and that's for the louvers of the bell tower, like that. Shouldn't have put it that side really. And we pick up the louvers there, which we don't see. That's good. Now what I'm going to do, I've gone in too dark on what is in effect the sunny side, so I'm just lifting that off because I want sunny side. That side will make all the difference if I can get that to lift away before it dries. There you go, that's better. That'll all be shown later on. Now we're looking for black here for the clock face, so that is that very dark colour again. And what time are we? Well, I'll tell you. I think it's going to chime. Well, I'm going to change that time a little, but it doesn't really matter what time it is. And I'm just trying to indicate the feeling of lettering of just use the bead of the brush. You see there again, I'm getting a little fussy here, so let's I'm really getting too fussy for my own good, I suppose. And in that area there we have a window, big old lovely old arched window. We don't have any there, but we do have another one here. There you go. I'm trying to loosen up a little bit here because I was getting a little bit tight. Another one here. There we go. Gradually getting there. You don't want to get too tight with all this. Now I'm going in with some raw sienna now, because I want to finish off these buttress areas. So I'm going in sunlit side, sunlit side. That's all in shadow, so I'm going to paint all of that. Right, so we've got the sunlit side of those two buttress areas. Okay, that goes across the top there, so and there is just a line there and a line there. A line there, we'll tend to that shortly. I've left the tops unpainted at this moment. Good. Oh, let's just tend to this path and all. Whoops, a bit dark, plenty of water. I want the path to be lighter than the road, and that's what it is. Do being a little darker than that, but basically that's that. Just get my brush to mop off there so it doesn't run too far. Right, now I'm going back to the larger brush again, and I want to put in some detailing around the lower part where the church sits really. So what am I going to do? Well, it's greens, so I'm starting off with a green and I'm just pulling down like that. It's quite a nice bit of planting around that area really, but anyway, that's some nice little colours as well, but I'm not going to get into that. There's also, I'm using burnt sienna as well, because some of this is a little bit sad. There we go. won't make too much of that, but I can see some yellows, so I'm putting in some little touches of yellows there. That's it. And just for the hell of it, I'm putting in a bit of red as well, and that is, it's getting a bit fussy. Notice I panic when it gets fussy, because that's really not me. But I want to, I suppose in many ways, show you all how to do, you know, varying techniques really. Well, we are getting there. Now, put in all the major parts of the picture, you know, the buildings, the land that they sit on, or the road or whatever. Now I'm going to paint in my favourite area, and that is the tree work. Right, now this is in shadow, so this is going to be very dark, and for that I'm going to use burnt sienna, going where we've got some green, and Prussian blue, and they mixed together will give me a lovely dark green. And at the moment the sun isn't out, so it looks a very fresh green, but I'm not going to treat it as a fresh green. I'm going to treat it as a dark green, and dark, you need more blue than brown. There we go. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a little bit of yellow just on the top, so we can see, well, we can't, so I'm cleaning the brush. A little bit of yellow paint, there we go, look at that. In actual fact, that's almost neat paint. Amazing. Isn't that fantastic? Because I want to pick up a bit of the light behind. Then I'm going to come down. Don't want too much interest in this, so don't want to make too much interest into this area. On the outside, yes, but not in the lower area. These branches hang down over the next tree that's coming there. And in the lower area, I'm going to add a bit more Prussian, and this time I'm adding Indian red, because that will give us a really dark colour and help enhance the light that we have. Now, just painting across there, make certain that you don't make a variety of or bands of colour. Make certain that you just finish that. Make certain that you paint there. I'll make certain that one, I've got a branch coming out, but branches also tucking back. Got to remember, this is not the last tree to come across, and funny enough, it heads down like that, and I'm finishing it there. There is some another bush there, but I'm going to leave that for the eye to allow you to see under that tree. I don't want to cut that right off. So that's our first tree. Now I've picked up what I consider a sort of there's a silver birch that overhangs, and this time of year they look a bit grey. So I've used a little Windsor, a little of the raw sienna, and a little bit of the Indian red, and very little moisture on the brush, because I want to get that feeling of overhanging. You know, the way these trees sort of hang around and down, don't they? You know, you can imagine these lovely old trees like that, and they're hanging over and down like that. Look at that. If you get the brush loaded correctly, that's the sort of colour, sort of feel that you get. Don't impede too much on that church. Then it gets a bit darker in here, so I picked up a bit more paint, leaving one or two edges just lighter, but that just lays down over that tree, over that area, like that. And I think that more or less does it for the start of that. The next one is a bit more green, so I'm adding yellow. There's a lot of yellow there, with the burnt sienna and a touch of Windsor. There we go. And that has made it a bit more green than the other one. And while I have that, I'm going to put a little bit of that into it actually. I don't want that to appear too brown. It's not have an autumn feel. That's better. There we go. So I've added a bit of that to it. But while I have that, which is a nice green, we've got this lovely, this tree is more open. So we've got to be very careful how we paint this. We don't want to overdo it, and it does hang over the front of that building there, the old White Horse pub. Very popular, this pub. It's quite dense, and it hangs over there like that. Tucks back into there like that. Still see the thingy at the back. Still. Hiya! I have a supporter just pulled up. Who are you? Elaine. Oh, Elaine. How you doing? Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm doing a commission for someone. I'm doing the church. Very popular. And thanks for supporting me on. You do that because it's on YouTube. Thanks, Elaine. See ya. The hat is back from Herefordshire. Thanks very much. Well, there you go. I'm recognised around here. Right, now we carry on, and we now do some darker areas. And that sprays out to there. That then sprays out to there. Good. That does come out there a little bit more, but I'm going to give it a little bit more this side because I don't want it to interfere too much with the church. There we go. And it's quite dense in this lower area. It really is dense right there. I think that probably is enough. It's quite a, you know, it does overhang quite a lot, but that's what I don't want to interfere with the church too much. I think that's sufficient. We can always put more in, but we can't take them out. Just going to use a dark grey mix, not too dark, but for the impressions of, of the glazing there, like that. Nice to have a bit of light on that. And then I'm going to use the same dark grey to create the chair. Well, it's a bench. It's not a chair, it's a bench. There is a figure sitting on that, which I can paint in shortly. In actual fact, I'm going to paint in now. And that figure is going to have a nice red tone, just cadmium red is a nice red, makes the figure stand out, although there again we don't want the figure to stand out too strong. And then a little sort of Windsor blue into that for the figure's legs, stretching down there like that. And then the hair, let's go purely burnt umber. And the figure's looking down the street. Look at that. That's easy enough. So that's the figure, and some more details put in. Now I'm going to deal with the silver birch now, and I've used a bit of this dark grey for the gutter and just touched in those windows. But of course these silver birch, that sits there like that, and it's always very, where they sit on the ground, they seem to be quite a lot of dark within the areas, and then you have these dark sort of colours within the trunk, typical of a silver birch of this type. Yeah, that'll all look right when we have shadow. Oh, and then while I'm doing this, I'm going to put in, there is a attachment in the form of, a bit darker there, of a bar that connects these together. And it doesn't actually connect those, because that connects that one, that's it, and that one, but not that one. Right, okay. Oh, while I have this dark colour, although I've cleaned it from my brush, I'm still picking up a little bit from the palette. The weather vanes going in like that, and we do have a flagpole, lovely old flagpole there. I'm sure if we don't put that in, then we're going to get told off at some point. Why not a flag of some sort? We don't know what sort of flag, but it's like that. There you go. Hey ho, go with the flow. Right, I'm just going to put in some darker greens now. Just something out that's still in the palette really, because there is some darker green areas here where we've got along that border, some of it goes up, some of it goes back, some of it goes up to there, not too much under that tree. And then I'm just going to soften that, because I don't need that to be too interesting, because it's in the distance. There we are, soften the tops, not the underside, just soften the top, and that gives a bit of a sense of something going on within the plant areas. Now, the final thing to do is same colours, ultramarine, Prussian blue with some red in there, with some Indian red, because this is the dark. It's quite dark, but there you go, should be okay. Railings that come there around the corner like that, and then it goes down there like that, then it goes so that's there, that goes up across the back, and of course that goes down as well. So that shows where, I'm not depicting this exactly because it doesn't need to be, well, not in my estimation anyway. And then I'm just putting the steps in. That's not what I'm looking for. I need a dark grey there. Try and get the feeling of steps. Have I got that? Not really, no. There you go. And the edge of that wall finishes there like that. And of course, that wall is in shadow. Runs along like that down, and that is all in shadow. Look at that. I'll put that in better shadow when I shadow the whole thing later on. Bit more colour there. There we go. Because there's steps running down that area there like that. Oh well, that's near enough. And while it's amazing how near enough sometimes good enough. It may not be to some artists, but to me, I'm not here to really depict all the areas of the painting. I'm here to try and give this light. Now finally, I'm going to put in burnt umber to that, because I'm looking for a greeny grey brown for the rest of this, any of the trunk work that we can see. Now I know in theory that trunk work has is light, but of course where we get into the quite a it's got to connect up with that one. There we go. And then once it gets to about here, it tends to split and go up into different sort of arrangements, and that then comes like that. Could come from there, look. And it is a willow, so it hangs down. So we're just going to make certain that we depict that. Everything sort of flows down like that. That's it. There we are. Oh well, there you go. I'm pretty much happy with that. We mustn't complain with that. Just putting one or two little touches onto this one, just to give an indication, but I don't need too much on that, to be honest with you. So I'm going to leave that at that. I tell you what, I'm looking to the fun bit now. It's the shadows. Now for my shadow work, I've used Prussian blue with cadmium red. Prussian blue, cadmium red. Right, now what I've got to watch is I'm not too dark in the distance, and a bit more blue, so there's a bit more blue gone in. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to face down the left hand side of the church, the spire, like that, and there's ribs to this, and those ribs I can put in afterwards. Right, lots of ribbing going on, so that goes down there. Then I'm going to go out a little bit wider with this. Remember I said I'm going to go wider with this tower. Well, that's what I'm doing now, leaving some constellations on the top, but basically I want that to be in strong sunlight, and if we can get that right, it's make or break time for the painting. Now it runs across there, but that buttress stands out, so we're going to leave that, but that one is in shadow, so we're going to paint that as a buttress area that's in shadow. There we go, and that just a little buttress area. Oh, there you go. And then that just runs down like that. That could be a little higher than that. Looking at perspective as I paint, I see no reason why you can't alter things as you go along. It's quite often a good thing to do. And then of course that sits on the planting area there, and immediately we've got sunlight onto the right hand side. Then we go in with too much on the brush, so there we go, some areas there. That's it, we can tidy that up shortly. There is a line there, just need tidying up. I can attend to that. Let me tidy it up now with this brush, because sometimes I say I'm going to tidy it up and then I don't show it on the video, and I could imagine that would be very annoying. Anyway, continue. I'm not going too dark with this, but the bell tower, the belfry area, louvers, and then we've got the start of that area of the church, and then we have a little bit of detailing there, a little bit of detailing there. Just watch that down. Oh, that wasn't planned, but there you go. We'll accept that, because we may have some shading on there. Then the shading of that lovely window. Then this is in shadow. There's a buttress area that's probably in shadow, but I might leave that to be light. Is there another buttress area there? No, there isn't. And then that comes along to here, and that then is all in shadow. So that window faces towards us to that corner. There we go. And that then comes down to there, like that. Yeah, we've got a nice bit of light on that. What else? But then of course, that then shades beyond the church, doesn't it? There we are. I love that. I love the way that shadow pulls away there. Now this buttress area would be in shadow, and I'm depicting it so it's not really casting a shadow onto the other side. So I'm leaving those two like that. That should work okay. Right, now let's look at this sort of area where it's quite shadowed. Already got some shadow work in places, and just pull it up with your finger. That will give you a bit of a textured feel. You've probably seen me do this quite a bit. Something I never used to do, but I found that it was pretty much required, really. In the speed of everything you need, really, to make certain that you do things as fast as you can. That wall is now in shadow. There we are. So all of our lovely painting of that didn't really go anywhere. And of course, casting from that, well, let's deal with the shadow down this, the dappled shadow on that trunk. There we go. And that's down the back edge. Like that, a little dappling down the front, there you go, and that would then cast a shadow across there up into that area there. Now this casting shadow is going to be light blue, and it's got to be a little bit open. There you go, particularly on that white area there. Look at that. It really gives a lovely sense of light hitting that cast from that tree, really, that lovely tree like that. There we go. Look at that. See, that brings that all into sunlight. Right, now we're going for a bit of deeper shadow. There's a bit of deeper shadow there. This is in shadow because of the angle, like that, and it casts the shadow across onto that. Then there's an overhang shadow there, and then there's that then sneaks like that, so that's more or less in shadow. Isn't this watercolour brilliant? You know, it really does throw up so much you know, so much interest to when you paint with watercolour. It does create a lovely feeling of what I'd class as pleasure, really. It really pleases me to use watercolour to do my creating. Now I'm just using the point of the brush now just to finish off one or two outer edges that I need to, because I think that just helps depict the feeling. Oh, there's an area there that's shadowed and an area there that's shadowed. There you go. Don't want to cover the two. There's a square there, so I'm going to get rid of that with a bit of secondary shadow. There you go. Putting that into shadow, because I don't want that to interfere. Oh, and the figure will be cast in the shadow like that, and the bench, of course. Yeah, we can go along with that. I'm still using the same mix of paint. Now, from these trees, let's just mix up a little more, because we've got a fair way to go. And I've used a bit more red this time, and the red will be used to depict that tree that's casting that shadow across that area, like that. Just to create that lovely feeling of sunlight. So it's all of a sudden lit that area up. Okay, well, before I jump ahead and do too much, I'm going to sit back, finish off my coffee. Now here we go with our old favourites, finishing touches. And I'm going to get my rules stick out for this, because I need to hold it a bit. There we go. They're very useful to lean on. I don't normally worry. Oop, not really helped me a lot there. I'm just going down the back edge of that tower. And then I'm going down there, and then creating some lines in the sunlit side. Go. So that's that. Let's just bring that out just a little more. Like that. Yeah, that just gives a sense of a line along that back edge. That's what I want to do. Actually should have gone up in the first place, but there you go. Then we do have a line then just down here. That's it. Now, same colour can be used to enhance other areas of this, like the louvers there, and I'm showing individual little louvers on this one, something that I rarely do, but as I say, sometimes it's nice for you to see things that I don't normally do, just in case you're looking to paint in a slightly different way to me, which is, I hope, something that you will do, because it's not all about copying me, obviously. Good. Let's see where we are from there. Well, if you would like to make a small contribution to the running of my channel, then all you need to do, at the bottom of your screen, click on the thanks. You then slide the slider along to the amount, as little or as much as you wish, and click buy and send. You then fill in your details and you're done. I thank you very much in advance. Now I wanted to show a secondary glow on that back edge, so all I've done, I've damped it and lifted away, and there you go. You can see that there's sort of a secondary glow on that back edge, and that's what I'm looking to achieve when I put on the colour earlier. And now I'm looking to put in a few little touches on the buttress areas along the top edge. I'm looking to really darken this side just against the there, just in that top corner, right, and down that back edge, including that buttress area again. What I'm doing, I'm enlarging the whole thing really, but I don't want to make it any darker because I want that to show. So then I'm softening it, allowing the paint to run back, and that just gives an addition to the whole thing. And that there again gives a feeling of light coming back in to that area, because quite often you get reflected light in the spire and that lower area there. Good, good, good. Now I've just tidied up one or two little edges here and there, but I do feel that we should take the surround away. And I've just spotted that really I could do with something a bit deeper on this back edge. There you go. Because I want that spire to stand in its full glory. Like that. It's amazing how, you know, things just sort of appear in your mind, and now I'm just dampening down that side and allowing that paint to run round. Well, there you are. That was another very helpful person that lives in the house behind me, and she's asked me if I would like a glass of water or anything, which is very, very kind of her. As you know, people, when you go out and paint, people are so good in many ways. I'm just trying to remove that dot, but I'm not really worried, because do you know what I'm going to do? And I'm not going to keep playing with this, but I'm going to create some overhanging from that hedging there, and give a feeling that we've got a bit of overhanging. There we are, hanging shadow from. There we go. Look at that, and then all of a sudden, that more or less justifies that spot of colour. And I'll tell you something now. That should all be in shadow. Just thought of that, and that shows that shadow there. So this is all in shadow, not all of the figure, because it goes in a, it turns and then it comes in to gradually into sunlight. So that will also help me to create that rounded feel to that brick wall. Just a couple of other little bits and pieces now. Where that wall sits on the ground, always nice to show some little touches like that. But other than that, I don't think we need anything else. I think that's pretty much finished that. Well, there is the finished painting. I think it's come off quite well. I'm pretty much happy with that. And it's the lovely church and the corner of the pub here in Great Baddow in Essex. And if you've enjoyed watching, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click the link bottom right hand corner, and I'll be uploading more videos in the future. But in the meantime, take care and happy painting.